Welcome to episode 72 of In Touch with iOS, a podcast that talks about iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, Apple TV, and related technologies, plus tips, apps, and gear. I'm your host, Dave Ginsburg, and my guest this week is IT professional and a forum, the forum of Mac to the Future, Warren Sklar. How you doing, Warren?
I am a form of Mac to the Future, I guess.
You're a former, and I couldn't have tongue tie. I'll even leave that in so people can laugh at my bad thinking of. I want to tell you who you are. You are
I'm a form of a lot of things. Yeah,
you are the moderator of Mac to the Future page on Facebook, which is a absolutely awesome place. I can't believe you guys have over 3,000 people in that group. Yeah. It's so awesome. A lot of cool people and.
We only weed out a few of them, which is good. So we're pretty laid back. So
which is fun. Yeah, we'll talk about that at the end of the show. You can give everybody information about that. So we got some great topics to talk about today, and Warren, being a big beta tester as he is, we're gonna talk to him a little bit about beta testing in general, and then there was a news story about that. So we got some news stories here as I always do, and then some topics this week is what's up with all these Apple iOS updates? I'm perplexed to how many updates Apple really rolled out. We're going to hit that topic a little bit. And then eSIM. eSIM is a discussion I've had previously on previous episodes. I just did a discussion with our friend Chuck Joyner on Mac Voices, but I want to hit that topic a little further. And we'll keep going with tips and some other stuff, so I won't have to give you the whole agenda, but look forward to a great show here. So, but let's get started and let's hit the news right away. What do you say, Warren?
Let's dig in.
All right. So my first story that caught my eye was Anatech's in-depth review of the iPhone 11, and they're saying that the A13 processor is twice as fast as the competition. This is on 9to5Mac, and they did a full review on this. And actually, this was today as we record this on the 16th of October. As usual, they say that the processor would be a little faster than the previous one. So they're saying about 20% over the A12. That's pretty substantial, I think. And that's what the A12 processor was in the 10S, the 10R, and the 10S Max. They did increase the peak power draw of the A13 processor, and I definitely see that because the battery life is pretty phenomenal. We both have iPhone 11. So what do you think of the story?
I did see it. Of course, every year you're going to get a faster processor. I think the biggest surprise was the battery to everybody. I don't think anybody was expecting that. But I think everybody will, there's a few things you expect every year on an upgrade. You have faster processor, better camera, hopefully a little better of a screen. And then, you get happy with the other stuff if it happens. So, so I mean, it's fast. Like you, I had a 10S Max before it.
Right.
Do I notice that much difference between the two? Do I notice 20% difference? Not really. I mean, it's still. It's fast. I mean, it's fast. It's definitely fast, but it's the last one was fast too. And I have an iPad Pro. Like you, the 11-inch, and I have the new Mini, last iPad Mini. And, if I compare it to my Pro, it doesn't seem that much faster. But if I compare it to the Mini, you can kind of see the speed difference. So the processors, do make a difference, but I don't think they make that much of a difference, like compared to a PC.
I think really the battery life has been my most impressed. I've been very impressed with that. This phone, I think, well worth the investment alone is this battery life, is because the 10S Max was good for me, but although I did have their case, the battery case, the smart case, so I probably experienced what I'm experiencing now on the 11 Pro Max without having that big bulky case now. So that's so that in itself is pretty cool. So, but definitely. Anything. How much else you could say about the processors? I mean, again, it's not a critical thing that you need. Do you need these phones? No. Are they nice? Yes. Do they have nice displays? Yes. So I think we could leave it at that.
Probably the camera itself takes a little bit of. Not probably, definitely the camera takes more of the processing power than probably the previous generation. So whether obviously the like Deep Fusion's only available on 11 line, but could they possibly have put it on like a 10 or a 10R or 10X? I mean, I don't know. I mean, who knows? I think the article actually states that it needs the 13 the A13 processor for it to work.
Right.
But, no, so I don't know if it's because of the speed or because of something else.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but that's all I really can say about that. And let's move on. I got another story here on Apple Insider, but this has been all over the news today. The FCC approved a $26.5 billion merger of T-Mobile and Sprint. That's been ongoing for a fair amount of time here. We've talked about this in the past, but FCC has actually given the official green light with the vote of approval, allowing the two companies to join. But there's a couple hurdles left to go here. A lot of states around the country are suing to block it, and so the article does say that T-Mobile Sprint are not going to proceed with this until that's all cleared up. What do you think of this merger?
No, I mean, I switched to T-Mobile a few months ago per you and a couple other people suggested it. I know the merger's been talked about for a while. The only thing I think about is whether it's going to help with coverage if they get to buy Sprint's towers and use Sprint's towers and whatnot.
And that's the biggest thing, and that's the biggest thing it mentions in this article is rural America is just brutal when it comes to having coverage for cellular service. I can attest to that because I was visiting in Southwest Michigan last weekend from when we have to record this, and boy, it was brutal. I was like, how do these people live? Well, I did have T-Mobile. Apparently, Verizon tends to have a little better coverage there, but that doesn't make sense. All the carriers should have equal. It should be an equal playing field at this point. I mean, and I think with this merger, it's gonna accelerate the 5G. I mean, the 5G coverage is going to make things even better. Make these rural areas be able to have internet speeds that they can enjoy because none of these big companies like AT&T and Comcast want to run any cables anywhere to these rural areas because it isn't cost effective for them because they don't want to run it. But you can put up a simple towers around the areas in the rural areas, and then you can get the much better coverage. So I would say
they used to just have the satellites, right? I mean, they used to have satellites.
Such lag. That's the problem with the lag.
It was lag, and I think I've seen the commercials now where now they're trying to push those things out because they know 5G is coming, and 5G is gonna hopefully take those people out because in theory, if you could put internet speeds in the air like 5G says it can, then that's what you need to do because they don't have the infrastructure with the cables.
So it will be interesting. I'm hoping the merger goes through. I'm a T-Mobile customer, very happy T-Mobile customer, I must say. And I think if anything, it's going to strengthen the company even more, and we'll get to see even more fun things that John Ledger is going to post in social media. He's a fun guy to follow. If you don't know, John Ledger is the CEO of T-Mobile, and great guy, and he's really built T-Mobile up. And again, I'm biased. I'm a T-Mobile customer. I'm not getting compensated for it, but I could tell you, I think it's the best thing I ever did. So
I've been happy too. Yeah. So
you were on T-Mobile as well. That's right.
Yeah, switched over, and I think I got a free taco the other day.
Yeah, there you go.
Some free stuff. There you go.
T-Mobile Tuesdays. You get the tacos and you get free gas, 10 cents off gas every week from Shell.
And
if you're a baseball fan, every year they give away MLB at bat, which is awesome in itself.
$15 last week. If you at the MLB shop, did you see that one?
Yeah, you got discounts with this is the T-Mobile Tuesdays app, and they like giving stuff. Sometimes they kind of irritate me when they give away like cool bags, and the stores would never have any by the time you got there.
I got my hat. They had a hat once, and I got the hat. Yeah, which is good.
I got the credit card holder thing. It was not great. So anyway, we're going to move on to this third story, which will actually lead into a topic. Apple released the third developer betas of iOS 13.2, and then iPad OS 13.2, and of course TV OS, and then you also have Apple Watch OS 6.1. So they're at the third betas already. And we're going to talk about how crazy these updates have been this time around in a minute here, but it looks like they do see some notable changes. One thing is including the ability to opt into a program where anonymizes voice recordings of Siri requests. A number of new emojis have emerged. I don't know if I know you're on this. I haven't started playing with this yet on my phone. But what do you think so far? I assume you've already got it installed and rocking?
Yeah. Actually, was this? I thought it was the fourth. Was it the fourth beta of iOS 13 or third? Maybe you're right, but
it's the fourth on the watch. It's the second on iOS. I'm just saying.
That's what. Okay.
Yeah, this is. You're scaring me. I thought I didn't get a current article. Yeah, this is on Apple Insider.
It was today, though, right? Because it was something about 3 hours ago.
It was today. Yeah. And you don't have it installed yet?
No, I do. I have them all installed. Okay. I got to watch that.
I was gonna say.
So the when you first install them, the betas on the iOS, iPad OS, and Mac OS. First prompt you get is emulate the prompt, because if you enable Siri, it tells you on the Mac, but it basically says something like Siri sends information like your voice input, contacts, and location to Apple to process your request, and then you can say enable or not. So you kind of get that on all your devices when you first set it up, and you can say yes. Me, I say yes, sure, I don't care. Make Siri better.
I'm not saying a glutton for punishment, I tell you.
I'm not saying anything that I wouldn't tell anybody, and if you can make Siri better, then go for it. So there's that. The emojis, I'm not an emoji person. I don't even know what's out there, to be honest with you. But I could tell you that iOS, at least from last week's beta and today's beta, feels a lot better than what's out in release, because I had the release too.
Yeah.
And it fixes some things. There's still some issues. Mail is still kind of not quite there yet. There's still some issues with mail here and there. Not like silly stuff. Like once in a while, if you open up mail, it will open up to the last email you looked at, no matter where you were, instead of the default view or things like that. And every so often can't download from a server and things like that. But it's a lot better. So, I mean, the iOS beta, if you had a phone in your hand with iOS beta and production, you wouldn't know which one's which. It's basically the same thing. So, same with the iPad OS, and pretty much same with the Mac OS. They're not majorly. But yeah, it's fun. As far as the beta process, it's been rough. I've done these for.
Yeah, you're a dedicated beta tester, and especially you do it on primary devices, which just blows my mind. I just couldn't do it. I mean, I've got a 12.9-inch first gen iPad. I've been using iPad Pro that I've been using it on, and then I have a 10R that I've been also using it on, and I'm more than comfortable doing it on those devices because they're not my primary devices. But yeah. You are brave.
I kind of do the same thing every year, though. When on WWDC comes out, I'll generally take an image of everything first, take iOS iCloud backups and all that good stuff. Then I'll put my production stuff on that beta, and generally I'll hold off on a watch for about 2 or 3 beta cycles, and then I'll kind of go on the watch too. So I'll usually have, usually have an iPad and an iPhone. So historically, I would do an iPad on iOS beta and my iPhone not on the beta. But since now iPad and iPhone OSs are split, it's a little different. So this one's been rough. For the first 2 months, it's been kind of hard to deal with production machines, but we made it. I got there, and and now it's a lot better than it was.
Have to edit this here. Sorry, I had to get up.
That's all right.
Let's edit. This will be an edit point. Take 2. Okay. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and it's it is like I said, it's not for the faint of heart. I could say that. You gotta be one that wants to deal with it, all the pains of being in a beta tester, and expect that you're going to have problems with your device. I would exactly. You'd agree with that.
But that's what we do. We like to figure out, a lot of these problems that we have as a tech. We kind of find ways around, and it's kind of neat to find alternatives.
No, yeah, that's what you, as both of us being IT professionals, we love doing that.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting. So, but check it out if you can. You can do a public beta if you so choose. Both of us, of course, have developer accounts, so because we want to try it right away. Right away. So, there's definitely some interesting things. One thing I just remembered an article I wanted to touch on a little bit is I don't know if you read about this the fact that iPadOS 13 was causing some serious slowness on the iPad Air 2. Did you hear about that?
I read it briefly, but I did see something about like that.
Yeah, so our friend at Amex over at Tidbits, he wrote an article about it, and it looks like it was a isolated. It wasn't a ton of problems with it. So, but more so something to be aware of. I'm gonna put a link to this article in the show notes if you had experienced any iPad Air issues. Be aware if you haven't upgraded yet to iOS 13, you might want to hold off a little bit. But I think for the most part, it's been okay. Because as I read through the article, it said there were some people that were having issues. I put a link there in the show notes on that. So, check that out and be aware. The Air 2 is it's an older device, and just like anything, Apple does do support a lot of devices, which is great. But just kind of be aware of that. So. So with that, let's lead right into some of the topics we were going to talk about today. What I wanted to talk about is what is with all these iOS updates? I was just dumbfounded how we started off with 12.4.1 before iOS 13 hit, and then of course when you got the new device 13.0, which of course you're never going to expect is going to be around much longer than a few days, sometimes a few weeks, depending on. I think if you look back on the issue, I have a link in the show notes to the Wikipedia article that everybody is always updating all the versions. I just find it interesting to see what all the fixes were and what they went through. So you started at 13.0, then you went to 13.1, and that was on September 24th. That was like, what was that? 4 days, 5 days after the 13.0, wasn't that?
Something like that. And then we just had one the other day.
Yeah. So then you go to 13.1.1, which was 3 days later. Fixing more bugs, and then you had 13.1.2, that was another 3 days later, and then you go to 13.1.3 that just got released. Was it yesterday or the day before? No, yeah, it was yesterday. Yeah. Or was it today? I don't know. Today, the 16th.
Today was the betas. Yeah, yesterday was the other one.
It's just crazy. October 15th, so it was yesterday.
Yeah.
So
it came out with the Catalina supplemental.
So what is your thoughts? I mean, you're a beta tester. You've seen it all. Why do you think Apple has had such a problem of making this a stable release?
I mean, like I said, I definitely noticed that the betas are, or let's say 13.2 is definitely a lot better than the 13.1s out there, because as soon as I put it on there, my phone was acting faster. It was behaving better. So, yeah. I mean, what the problem I have is, Apple just needs to dump this publicly out, this 13.2, and stop messing around with these point updates at this point, because it needs to be done. And then for the people who bought, the Pro phone or the 11, I guess, with the, you saw, they saw the news, people talk about Deep Fusion, and they're like, I want the Deep Fusion, and it's like they don't have it, and they're reading some articles saying, well, it's out in beta, but they can't use it until they get on 13.2. And I would be upset if I wasn't a beta user and I had a Pro phone that could take these great pictures, but Apple's just not releasing what's needed to be released. So that's a bad look. I think they just need to get it done and get it out. From a normal user perspective, I had to pull my son and my wife's arm and leg just to go on to 13. Finally got them on 13, and then like a week later, the update came out. I'm like, did you do your update? And they're like, no, I don't feel like dealing with this anymore. So and then at this point, I'm like worried to even tell them to do the updates, because like every time I tell them to do an update, 3 days later a new update comes out, and normal users, they don't like that. Techs like it, we like it. I'm fine with it. I love updates, but they don't.
Yeah.
So
I'm always one. As soon as I read about it, it's funny. I my 13.1.3 came out yesterday. I'm sitting at the lunch table with coworkers having lunch, and I go look at the news like you and I both do at the same time, and sure enough, there was another update. Oh, geez. So I go into software updates and force it to update. And I'm usually right away. I run the updates.
Yeah.
And
as you got a good internet connection, you go and do it. So.
I'm just like you, but this was a crazy round. I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens with iOS 14.
It's a bad look it's a bad look for Apple, for the normal user, because
it really is.
Because you got the everybody jokes around. I mean, the jokes are Windows, makes you update it all the time, and that's one thing that Apple was good at not doing. And so, right now the new OS has more updates than probably the new Windows does, and they have to get it together. They have to just put out 13.2 and just they should put it out at least next week.
Get it out. I'll be anxious to get it on my 10R and see how it performs, and I've already I already downloaded it on my other iPad, so we'll see how that goes, and just go along.
Deep Fusion works. I mean, people are like, maybe it's not ready yet, but I think it works. I mean, as far as I could tell.
I forgot. Why don't you tell the listeners remind us what is Deep Fusion?
Right. So Deep Fusion on the 11 and 11 Pro and 11 Pro Max is essentially the phone will take, depending on the environment that you're in. So if it's dark, it will go into night mode. If it can do an HDR shot, it'll do an HDR. Somewhere in between there's a Deep Fusion mode too, where if you're not in those two areas, it will take multiple. When you click the shutter, it takes multiple pictures at once. And basically, after you take the picture, sort of stitches it together into an image, which is basically a clearer image, because he uses multiple cameras, and then it uses multiple algorithms to put them all together. So the result is you get more detail of pictures. And of course, the big joke is the sweater, because the sweater is basically pretty furry and fuzzy, and it has lots of threads in there. So basically, if you take a picture of something like a sweater, and zoom in, you'll see basically the greens and the fibers and things like that. So that's the example. You just get better. You get a more realistic image from the algorithms that it puts together. And of course, with 13.1 or 13.0 and 13.1, it's not available yet.
Right.
It's in beta in 13.2, and that's
so you have to have 13.2 in order to see this. So those who are not doing beta tests, you'll have to wait for a little bit to in order to be able to take advantage of this. So. Again, part of the beta testing process, but I would anticipate 13.2 is going to be out sooner than later.
Probably next week. I would say next week.
Yeah, I would be very surprised not be. So, Let's go ahead and move on topics here. Let's talk a little bit about what eSIM is. I've talked about eSIM at various lengths the last couple episodes. I was just on the Mac Voices show this past week, and Chuck Joyner and I had a great discussion about eSIM. But I wanted to kind of extend it a little further on what we talked about, and get your view too, because you've used eSIM as well as I have. So we got to get two good views of what we've experienced, and you've probably experienced more than me, because I did not have that second SIM with me, or my eSIM actually failed when I was in Italy because of the mistake of going on eSIM before T-Mobile was ready for it. So because they finagled getting my XS Max enabled. So, but basically what eSIM is a way of being able to have an electronic version of your SIM. So your SIM is not a physical SIM anymore. And the way you sign up for it is you go to your carrier. In the case of both of us, is T-Mobile. In fact, I was actually able to do it over their chat, because I had a physical SIM in my 11 Pro Max when it started off, and I said, I want to switch it over. And then all I had to do is give them the ESID number, which is a really long number. It's a different number than what you used to see on the physical nano SIM cards. And then they put that number onto your account, and then they send you a QR code, and you scan that QR code, and it does all the work for you. And I know originally what they had eSIM set up for is they were using it for prepaid phones. A lot of the prepaid phones, not postpaid, the ones that you pay for every month. So that's where it started. But now all the carriers are supporting eSIM. They're starting to see that it's a much more efficient way of providing service. You don't have to have these physical SIMs that always are failing, because every time you have a problem, the first thing they're going to do is swap the SIM out, right? So it's definitely interesting. So how did you go through when you got your new phone? Were you on eSIM right away?
So I'm not on eSIM now. In fact, you inspired
me. Oh, you're not. Oh, okay.
So you inspired me to talk to T-Mobile. Maybe after Vegas and do it, because I would love to do that.
Yeah.
So I still have a physical SIM in my phone now,
okay.
Which is the nice part about that is when I went to Apple and bought my phone, the only thing I had to do was take the SIM card out of the old one and put it in a new phone, which with eSIM I'm assuming it's not that easy. You have to probably call T-Mobile and give them the new IES, the new IMEI, probably the IMEI.
It's a ESID now, is what they call it.
Is it? So you have to do that, and they have to swap it to the new phone.
Right.
But so that's fine. But I used an eSIM when I went to Italy, from it's an app and a provider called GigSky, and GigSky is basically it's almost like a global. It's a global 4G provider that you could pick your countries, and a lot of countries go over. So it was actually neat. You go over there, you download the app, and then basically when you get to where you're going, you put in some information, you pay a certain amount, and then it does activate basically an eSIM on your phone.
Mm-hmm.
You need eSIM. And so what I got to see is basically what happens if you have an eSIM in your card, in your phone, plus a physical SIM in your phone too, which is kind of neat too.
Which it will show you if you go into About and your phone, and if you scroll down, it'll show the first device it'll show your Wi-Fi, your Bluetooth, and then your modem firmware. Then you have an SEID, and then you have an EID. Those are the two IDs that identify the eSIM that's in your phone. And then, so go ahead.
I see it in the primary, and then basically, so what happened is after you have two of them, if you go into cellular, if you go into cellular under settings, there's a you could add your cellular. You could actually add a C. That's where you would add an eSIM.
Add a cellular plan. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you add cellular plan. But with the GigSky, what this does is it expands this cellular screen to the eSIM options, and I don't remember the actual verbiage, but it was basically the options were: do you want to enable voice or data or both on SIM one, which would be the physical, and gave the same options for the eSIM SIM two. So basically, you could swap data and voice between the two. So of course, when you're traveling, you want to, if you have an eSIM as your travel plan, you want to disable most of your voice and data. Or in my wife's case, who did the same thing, she actually just disabled data on her T-Mobile SIM. Actually, I'm sorry, we weren't T-Mobile. That's the whole problem. Right. T-Mobile. If you go to Italy with T-Mobile, it
was beautiful. I was unlimited.
Yeah,
$15 cost me.
Yeah,
for the month.
It's crazy. Verizon for $15, you get maybe like half a meg. It's stupid. Yeah. So we were on Verizon at the time, so we had to actually really play around with that. And the Gig Sky wasn't crazy. It was pretty expensive actually. If you look at it, it's still cheaper than Verizon was. So when we got to one country, I think I actually bought a SIM at the country I was in and just popped it on and that way. But yeah, it was cool that you could kind of dictate which SIM could do what.
Exactly.
And like in my wife's case, she still wanted to get calls because she whatever reason. So she was able to enable voice on her physical SIM and then voice and data on the eSIM travel thing. So it was it works. I mean, there was actually, just a heads up, there's some issues though. So when you put if you have dual SIM, and the issue I had, and this might have been because it was like on beta 3 of iOS 13.
See, it comes to bite you.
It was crazy because the other SIM kept changing my region back and forth on my phone. So my contacts got crazy because the phone number didn't match up with the phone number on the contacts. So all my contacts weren't right. So I had to fix that. So I don't know if that's been fixed, but that's the only issue I really had, was basically the global eSIM card was basically telling my phone that I wasn't an American phone and I was in Italy, and change all my phone numbers. But,
okay.
Yeah. Other than
that, the way I'm demoing it is I have a SIM card I'm trialing out, Mint, for Mint Mobile, which is basically an MVNO carrier, secondary carrier to T-Mobile. So I basically have two T-Mobile numbers if you really think about it, but it's through the Mint carrier instead. So when you go into the cellular settings, and where I went in the phone is I'm going to settings and then cellular. Under that, it's going to actually show you cellular data. And then cellular data, if you have both both cards going in there, because it's going to show both your cell plans in that list. If you go to cellular data, you're going to be able to choose which one you want to use as far as which data plan. So you may want to use up some of your cellular data on the other plan if you have a second card. And this comes into the case too is if you have a business line and if you have a personal line. There's a lot of people I watch that I see all the time. They're carrying around two phones. That would drive me crazy. If I had to carry those two phones, I mean, I always have extra phones with me because, just like you, I'm a crazy IT person. So, but in this case, you can choose in the cellular data which data you want to use. Now, of course, in the case of my T-Mobile plan, it's unlimited, so I shouldn't even worry about it. But there might be sometimes I want to go on to the Mint Mobile, and or in anybody's case, you might want to switch to different data depending. You have that option. Then you set the default voice line, so you can set your primary or your secondary as which one you want, and that's pretty cool. And then the personal hotspot, you can turn that on, and then of course the hotspot would be based on which cellular data plan you have set up. So you have that. And when you go into the actual cellular plans, when you choose one of the lines, in the case of T-Mobile, let's say, I tap that line, and you have options like you could turn the line on or off. So if you wanted just the one SIM and not the other one, you could turn the line off. There's a tick under the settings there to turn that off. You also can label each one of those lines. So if you go into the cellular plan and label it, you can change the labeling to however you want to label it. They give you a lot of options, like if you want to call it business or just cellular data. There might be a line all you use it for is data. You don't use it for phone. which is really cool. I mean, it really tells me that you can use your iPhone as almost like a MiFi, like a MiFi hotspot, just by setting that to that type of device. And then you go through, turn on Wi-Fi calling and all the other stuff. You have all the other settings that are in there as well. But it's pretty cool. I'm very impressed of how Apple got this set up. Again, I don't know if we didn't mention it, but this is only compatible to the XS, the XS Max, the 10R, which is the current model, low-end model. Then, of course, the 11 and the 11 Pro are all have the capabilities of this eSIM. Any phones older than that, like if you have an iPhone 10, unfortunately, you don't have the option to do eSIM. So, any other thoughts you want to throw in there with eSIM before we move on?
No, I think that's pretty much. Other than you inspired me to, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
When you switch from physical to eSIM, did you notice any difference from T-Mobile as far as coverage or data speed or anything like that?
All the same. Never changed. Now, I did freak out a little bit. I did turn off my T-Mobile account for a moment to see what it would do. Then I turned it back on, and it said no service for a while. I'm like, oh boy, here we go. I'm gonna have to call T-Mobile to get this fixed. But I came back. So it does do it. The other thing I did talk about this in a previous show, is the fact that if you ever, for some reason, ever would have to erase the phone and reset it, it does give you the option when you erase it. There's a notification. I did post this in the Maxi Future group, that you can tell it to erase all data but leave the cellular settings alone, and that's what it does. So it just restores the phone, and the eSIM settings aren't touched. So, all right. Well, I think we talked that out, but a lot of great information. Check out eSIM if you have one of the newer models. If you don't, you're going to stick with your SIM cards. So, and I want to talk a little bit about the Files app. And the Files app, generally basically on the iPad. The iPad is probably a device more than anything that's been enhanced in iPad OS 13 than anything, in the fact that it really almost could be a full-time computer or full-time device. Honestly, so you now can plug in an external device into the USB-C port that's on the iPad, and it immediately recognizes it as a drive. This could be a thumb drive. This can be an external drive. Now, of course, buyer beware which the devices that will or will not work. It all depends. And I don't know, Warren, have you tried some? Because I did try some thumb drives and they didn't work.
I've had my 11 Pro for a little bit. I haven't actually tried it. I can't think of anything.
I'm just amazed. I'm more advanced with you with some of this stuff. I mean, you've tried stuff.
Just real quick, I have a SanDisk Lightning connected thumb drive.
Okay, that's what
I plugged that into my iPhone with the new Files app, and that's pretty cool. It sees that as a drive now.
And we've got a couple picks. I've got a new SanDisk drive I just bought, and I have other things as well coming up that do work really well. I had a thumb drive that I actually have a Samsung thumb drive that has a built-in USB-C port with a USB-A adapter that comes with it, which is pretty cool for having a thumb drive all in one. That worked, but sometimes you'll get some of these drives which are the USB-A, which is the one everybody knows. And you put a USB-C adapter on it, it may not work. It all depends on the power and how much it can handle the power. And also some of those external drives, they may require a little too much power that the iPad can really drive it. So that in itself is really cool.
People have been clamoring for this for a while.
You finally can manage your files on an iPad without having to go through all those hoops of how do you do it.
And the problem is, for 7-8 years we've gotten good at not needing to do it, and so I'm still struggling. Personally, I'm struggling to figure out what I would do with the Files app. But it's kind of, obviously you could open up, documents and pictures.
Well,
and
I mean,
videos.
the other great thing is it's linked to iCloud Drive. So if you're on your Mac, let's say you've got things on your desktop, or if you've got some stored, even maybe if you have your downloads folder synced, you can easily get to those files and open them right from the Files app, and then it'll open it in whichever program that you actually have. Pretty common things would be like a PDF. That would probably be very common that you would open, things like that.
And sometimes it also comes in handy actually now when you're on like in Safari or online and you download something.
Right.
Previously, if you download something that didn't know what to do, but now it will save it to. One of the options is to save it to files. So that's kind of a neat thing, rather than like to, send to a program, which is what it used to do. Like if you download a PDF and clicked on it, it would say, "What do you want to do?" And it says, "What do you mean I want to do? I want to have this file." No, you can't have it. You could send it to Adobe, or you could send it to something else. So it's definitely that's a good use case for downloading files to it.
Absolutely. And then the other cool thing is being able to link all your cloud services right in the Files app. So it's all like a one-stop shop. So I've got like Google Drive and Dropbox and Amazon Drive and OneDrive are all linked to the Files app. So you can get to those files. Well, let's say somebody's sharing something with you that they're on that service and they're not on another service. Now you're able to be able to share it. The only thing they haven't really enhanced yet, and I know is the sharing of folders in iCloud. There was some. Maybe it was in the beta that they were waiting to enable that, right?
It never. No, even in the betas, it wasn't enabled. It hasn't been tested.
So
yet.
They're still having challenges with that. So that's the only drawback to iCloud Drive. If you want to share stuff, it's a little more challenging. So that's why we have Google Drive, and we've got Dropbox, and Box is another one, and all the others that are out there that you can easily link to if need be in one place. No, it's a really cool thing that Apple did with the Files app. I'm very impressed of what they've done, and I don't think much else we could say about it other than check it out. And
it was due. It was due, and they did it, and now we can't tell them to do it anymore. So it's there. So and you say it's it's on the iPhones too. So we say it's good. We say it's good for the iPad, but it's the same on the iPhone, which is also good.
Right, and I forgot to mention that with the devices that have a Lightning connector still, because there's still plenty of people out there on iPads that have the Lightning connector. Like my iPad Pro first gen is a Lightning connector. You have to have that the camera connector kit or the dongle or adapter. That's it's got the USB connection to it that would plug the device in to that adapter.
Or
to be able to,
or the thing I have, which SanDisk and a few others have them, which is
they've got actual set adapters, right?
They actually have it's a dual adapter, Lightning on one side and USB-A on the other side. I've seen like knockoffs on Amazon for like $10 for like 32 gigs worth. I don't know if it'll work or not, but they're out there.
Just be aware that you do have to obviously need to have adapters in order for you to be able to plug in. So. Moving on, I've got a couple more tips we're going to talk about, and then we're going to talk about our picks this week. My picks are actually some items, hardware related items this week. First off, I don't know if you were aware of this. I have one tip. I wanted to talk about doing screenshots. I absolutely love doing screenshots on iOS, whether it be on the iPhone or the iPad. Of course, you know how to do a screenshot, right? You push the power button and the volume up button at the same time on a Face ID type device, and it does the screenshot of what you're looking for. Brings the screenshot down to the bottom left. And you either can just leave it there and it saves it right into the Photos app, or you can go in, tap it, and do editing with it. But I wanted to talk about was, were you aware of this one with Safari?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing about it. This one.
All right.
So along when you do it.
All right, cool. So if those of us have wanted to do screenshots in Safari of a web page. Now, whenever you do a screenshot, of course, you look at the web page, and then of course you scroll down. It's got a long scroll down, and you might want to say to yourself, maybe I want to be able to capture maybe the entire web page. There might be something on that page you want to read later, or whatever the case may be. So of course, again, as I mentioned, when you do a screenshot, you do the power button and the volume up button on a Face ID type device, and then you tap the screenshot. Now, in the screenshot, in this case, you're going to see a couple options at the very top. You have screen or full page. So if you tap full page, now what it's going to do is it's going to convert that screenshot you just did into the full page that scrolled all the way down of all that web page. Isn't that cool? And then once you're done, you tap done, and now it's going to give you a couple options of how you want to save it. So what it's going to do is it's actually going to save it to files. It would save it, so you tap save PDF to files. So then you choose where you want to save it as a file in the Files app, and then away you go. You have an actual screenshot capture of a web page that can be shared with anybody. If you, like I said, we just talked about it. If you want to put it in Google Drive, here, check this out real quick, and then someone will be able to get to it right away.
No idea. That was great.
Great.
That's actually very useful too.
Yep. So I got one good tip this week. So, and I thought this topic would be good before we wrap things up here and hit some picks here. Is mixing a little bit of talking about Mac OS Mac OS Catalina, excuse me, and using a new feature that's called SideCar. Now, there's been some hardware type devices for a while. I have a Luna display. I've got it's a little adapter dongle thing that you plugged into the USB-C port of your Mac, and then you ran some software. And what it would do is it would allow you to be able to get an image of duplicate image, like adding a second screen to your Mac and being able to access it. But of course, it was limited to what you could do. I'm very psyched, and I know you've been using SideCar quite a bit, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to let you tell the audience what you've experienced, especially the fact of the touchscreen and the pencil.
Right. So I actually, funny enough, I actually ordered the Luna as well. The Luna display before WWDC, and then after WWDC, it hadn't shipped yet, and I canceled it
so you lucked out. I still have it. So
yeah. So, but I've tried X Display, which is one, and there's a Duet, which is
Duet Display. Yep. That's software based.
They're all software based. Duet's probably not terrible, but with all these, and I don't know about the Luna display, but there's lag. There's a little bit of lag when you go between the iPads and the Mac, especially on the iPad side. And then some of them need the cable, and some don't need the cable. But if you do it wirelessly, it's really laggy. So I was excited for this because I actually had at the time I had an iPad Mini, so I was playing around with the iPad Mini 5. So
yep.
You need, evidently on the MacBook side, you need something with a butterfly keyboard, and on the iPad side, you need. Yep. They said it has to have that one of the models with the butterfly.
So that means 2016 and higher then.
Yeah, and I think they said that the regular MacBook, the 12-inch, doesn't do it, but everything else will.
Interesting.
And then on the iPad side, you need something that supports a pencil. It doesn't have to be the second gen; it's just first or second. So that's a requirement. That's the easiest way to remember. You need on a MacBook, you need a butterfly keyboard. And on the iPad, you need something that supports a pencil. Anyway, so you get on Catalina, you get on iOS 13. I recommend, a lot of people can't get it started unless they plug in cable first, whether it's Lightning to USB-C or USB-C to USB-C in the iPad Pro. Once you do that, if you go to settings and preferences, there's now a SideCar. There's now a SideCar option, and in that SideCar option, it will be pull down of any compatible iPad that you can use. So in my case, I had two, the Mini and not a Pro, you pick that, and then there's a few other options in there too, which are whether you want to show I'm going to go in there, whether you want to show the sidebar, and the sidebar has it's not quite the same sidebar as a Mac side. It kind of gives you, see if I can turn it on. It gives you some specific commands for the Mac, which are touch, finger touch. So you could actually finger touch the sidebar.
Yep.
You could put the keyboard on there. You could do a shift. You could do a control from there. And the other one's a touch bar, which is what it sounds like. It basically puts the icons of the touch bar down there. I have a 2018 Pro and with a touch bar and and an Air without the touch bar, and I gotta try it again. But my Air would if you do the Air, it won't put the touch bar on the Mac on the iPad. If your computer at the time, if your computer didn't have a touchpad, it won't put the soft touchpad on there. So that's something else to talk about. And then the last one is enable double tap for the Apple Pencil, which is explanatory.
Right.
And that's it. You plug it in, you pick your iPad, and it goes. And then going from that part on, if you ever want to connect your iPad as a secondary display, either wirelessly or wired, you could go up to your AirPlay icon, and it will show up as a device. And once it shows up as a monitor device, you could control it through the display preferences, just like any other external display. And awesome. I mean, the real magic is how lagless it is. I mean, it works as
I was impressed.
As it's supposed to. Yeah, it works like what you think it's going to do. It's basically just an extra display, but it's almost like even going over Wi-Fi, it's very impressive. So I think they're using Apple said they're using some of the processor power of the Mac, and I think that's why you need a newer Mac for it.
Yep.
But yeah, it's so funny enough, I as soon as I started playing with it, I had again the iPad Pro because you just
I think remember you had a 10.5 inch, you were fine with it.
Well, I had the 10.5 and I sold it because I
sold it.
I wasn't doing anything with it. So then the Mini 5 came out. I'm like, I really want that because I like the Mini. I still do.
Yeah, the Mini is nice.
And then the SideCar came out. I'm like, yeah, I just got to do it. And on the iPad Pro compared to like the Mini, the display is just gorgeous. I mean, it looks just as good, if not better, than the built-in display on the MacBook Pro.
That's awesome.
It just looks great. So basically, if you're traveling, if you're going to Starbucks and you have a compatible iPad and Pro, there's literally no reason why you can't have like very easy setup, 2 monitors going for you. It just works. So
I did throw a link in the show notes for it's on imore.com article on what Mac support SideCar and what iPad support SideCar. So everybody will have a whole laundry listing as far as that, as well as requirements for using SideCar. Like you said, for Wi-Fi use, Bluetooth use, handoff is turned on. So all kinds of stuff, and you'll see, this is a great article, and you'll get everything you want to know as far as compatibility.
I think it's going to sell iPads, to be honest.
Oh, it really is. It really is. I think it will.
People. I mean, I would have, if I didn't have a good iPad, I would, definitely buy one for it. You're getting it's not a cheap second monitor, but it's a really nice second monitor.
No. I mean,
it does other things.
a lot of businesses, people are traveling with laptops, and they say, hey, you know what, I really need to have a second monitor. And ASUS makes a great travel monitor that I've seen been given out to a lot of companies. But it is cheap, $199, $200, or $250 versus what an iPad is. But unfortunately, in the case of business, there's still a lot of PC users out there. This is not available on the PC unless they've got something that we're not aware of. But we stay in the Mac world, so we're not worried about it. So because it works with Mac.
Duet does work with PC. So I have Boot Camp on my machines, and
that's right.
Around with it. So Duet will work. It's just a world of difference. So I mean, it's.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's just so much more pleasurable to use the sidecar than anything else.
That's right. You can do Boot Camp, or even I use Parallels, and you can put Parallels windows on that second screen on your iPad.
But SideCar does tricks too. Like, as you said, the Apple Pencil works in some places with it. One of my favorite tricks is it shows as an app. So when the SideCar is running, if you go to multitasker apps, you'll actually see SideCar listed as a running app, and you can switch around seamlessly between other iPad apps, and then go right back into SideCar like you never left it. So
right.
It really is. It's a second display that could be an iPad. It's great.
Absolutely. All right, little time we have left. A couple picks I have for this week. The first one that I'd been wanting to buy, and then finally the price came down to where I wanted it to be, was this is a SanDisk 1 terabyte extreme portable external SSD. Very fast. It's 550 megabytes a second file transfers. It's USB-C on board, and it's also works with USB 3.1. In the box is this little small, almost like a big flat pack of gum. I mean, it just blows my mind how small these devices have gotten, and have 1 terabyte of data to be carrying around with me at all times. So I wanted it to be able to copy files over and be able to store stuff with me at all times, and not have to worry, and not have to carry around 50 thumb drives, it does come with a USB 3.1 adapter, which is cool. So it plugs right. It's like a little adapter, plugs onto the USB-C cable that also comes with it. And as I talked about earlier, I had that. It's called the Extreme Portable. It plugged right into my iPad, and the Files app recognized it immediately. And you said you have one of these too, like one of the older ones.
I have it. It's a WD one. It's about
Western Israel. Okay.
Yeah, it's 500 gig, and it's they're great. I mean, like I was telling you before we started, I had a clone on there once. Like
that's right. You cloned an OS. Yeah.
Yeah, so I cloned Mojave on there, and if you just boot off it, it's almost. I would say it's probably as fast as like a 2015 or 16 MacBook.
That's pretty cool.
It's not quite as fast as obviously the super SSDs they have in there now, but it's fast enough. I mean, it's usable, like permanently usable. So,
but more so, my focus to talk about was the fact that I can use it with my iPad, and I definitely won't be using it to boot. But who knows? I'm an IT guy. I love playing around. I might erase things, add things. I like doing that. But check it out.
Do a time machine backup on it. It's like you could do. I think my 200 gig hard drive backup for time machine on that thing when I purchased it. Yeah, about 30 minutes, maybe 35 minutes.
You could do that for sure. Got a link to that in the show notes. And then the second item I bought recently was a new case. I never could find a really good case for my iPad Pro 11-inch. The keyboard is not the greatest. I have the keyboard, the Apple keyboard case, and it doesn't protect it. It falls off all the time. So I really wanted to have a case that would not only be durable, but it also would give me some more flexibility. And this one I purchased was the Muse case, and it's made by a company called Zugu, Z-U-G-U. And what I like about it is it's very protective. It's thin. It's lightweight, but it's also magnetic. So you can flip the cover to the back, and there's about 8 notches that the back flap comes out, and it goes and notches down all the way to almost flat. So it was great. I was on the plane when I was traveling, and it was beautiful. I had this thing almost flat. I didn't have to worry about it falling or having any issues with it. And it had a nice angle to it. The other thing that it really is awesome is it accommodates the Apple Pencil, the second gen, of course. At the very top, it's got enough of a notch that the pencil fits in there and hits the magnetic on the iPad. They open it up, so when you put it on, it charges it. And then a lot of times, I had a case where the pencil it's a pain where it was holding the pencil, but it either would always fall out or it just wouldn't work well. So what it does is on the back of the case, it actually has an elastic holder, and you put the pencil right into the elastic holder, and it sits there because you don't have to have it be charging all the time. So check it out. I think it's a great case. I was very impressed with it, and I'm very happy. It's at $60, $59.99 on Amazon. I'll link on the show notes for that as well. With that, Warren, I'll put you on the spot. Do you have anything you want to have as a pick?
So many toys and gadgets and things that I bought.
If you don't, I think we're fine. I understand. We didn't talk about it before the show, so
no. I think, if it's out there, I probably have it.
Yeah, you are. You do like. I mean, I also didn't. I failed to mention that you also do lots of reviews on mymac.com.
Yeah, I do product reviews, and then if
product reviews
in there, I just buy it myself. The one thing I'm using all the time now that I really like are I put a link, but the Bose sunglasses.
Oh, that's right.
They're really cool. I mean, they're really underrated, but everybody who buys them likes them. It's basically link in there, but it's basically a pair of sunglasses with speakers in them and a microphone in them. So, it for walking around outside, it's inconspicuous. People don't know what you're doing, and the sound's good and the quality is good. So that's one of my favorites.
Yeah. All right. Cool. All right. I think we could go ahead and wrap things up here, but I wanted to I want you to tell everybody how they can find you. We talked about the Mac to the Future Facebook group. I know that's your primary place. Tell people a little bit about the MacBook Facebook group, and you got to be a Facebook member, of course, to be able to access it. So go ahead and tell them.
I'm on Instagram and Twitter, and I think everything is W Sklar if you really want to get a hold of me there.
Okay.
I don't check Twitter too much. Kind of live mostly on Facebook.
You do.
It's easy.
I follow everything, and you respond to everything.
I mean, it's just
so about
easy.
Everything.
It's just, for me, it was just so easy just to pick one and go with it rather than spreading it all out. So, so the Mac to the Future Facebook group was created. I think we're almost 4 years now. It's kind of quite a while.
I've only been maybe a year and a half, maybe 2 years since I discovered you guys.
So me, a couple other people were actually adminning another group, which I won't name, that kind of turned sour. And
sure,
we said, well, we could do this. And we started the group, and basically it's called Mac to the Future. And literally we talk about anything technology related. Sometimes we just talk about anything, well, doesn't matter, but mostly technology related with heavy emphasis on Apple products.
We love Apple.
It's not so much of a like a text. A lot of groups are basically help. I need help kind of things. We get some of that, but most of it's like it's conversational. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? Or basically, do you have opinions on this and that? And it's helpful for people who. It's actually helpful for people who are fairly comfortable with tech already.
Yeah.
And just want to kind of like dig more into it and get more out of it. But we certainly, there's no stupid questions, and we get them all. So
I jump in too. I love answering lots of questions too. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and like you, that's on there. Like we have you and a few other pretty much members that that they know their stuff, and you'll go to a lot of other groups, and it's like some of the bad groups, and you'll see like everybody
bad answers
who think they know what they're saying, and it's like almost like comical answers. When you know what you're doing, it's just like what. So that's what I like about the group is the people who know what they're talking about speak up, and the people who aren't quite sure are they don't, but they'll get involved. So it's a good place to be.
Yeah, a lot of fun. And then we also do another podcast, Mac to the Future Go, with our friend Mr. Guy Searle, which he is a character, we must say. But he's a lot of fun.
He's a good guy.
He's a good guy. But Guy. Check that out too. So, but yeah, come join us. It'll be a lot of fun. I'm on there a lot, and we had a lot of fun too. And I can't thank you enough to come on the show. So let's go ahead and wrap this up.
That's great.
Thanks, and that's a wrap for this week. Please send your comments, questions, and suggestions to our email address, feedback@intouchwithios.com. You can follow us on Twitter @intouchwithios. You can subscribe in your favorite podcatcher, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, and iHeartRadio. Or better yet, go to our website at intouchwithios.com, where all the links to all the ways listens are there. I am Dave Ginsburg, and you can follow me and find me on Twitter @DaveG65. Again, Warren, thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. It was great. I'm glad I fit it in, and I'm heading out to Vegas tomorrow. Yeah, I'm going to head out to Vegas tomorrow, and hopefully things will go good, and we'll talk next week, I'm sure.
Yes, we'll talk next week, and we'll have you on the show again soon. Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody, and we'll talk to you again soon.